Welcome to Second Glance. My name is Hugo. I'm one of the pastors here at Mission View Church, and I'm joined by our church planting resident, Zach Baker, and for the first time, Jorge Alvarado. He is another church planter. In fact, this past Sunday, he got to preach his first, hopefully not last message, but it might be a little while, because you're also planting a church not far in Akron, but specifically a Spanish-speaking church. And so we loved hearing your heart for God's people, even hearing more about your story. And so I wanted to maybe kind of just dive in a little deeper. You mentioned a few things about your home country, some of the turmoil that led to your inevitable, like you guys had to leave. And I can't even begin to imagine that. But you said most recently the government there, they've banned Bibles.
Right.
And so I don't know how much communication you're able to have, but can you just speak to like just the impact? Like what's that? I mean, obviously we can imagine, but do you know, like, are churches are even still allowed to meet? Like what's going on?
Yeah, so there's a combination of a lot of things. So they banned Bibles, right? Just as of probably the last 6 months.
Okay.
What's going on actually besides that is churches are being censored. So the way it works is if you're a pastor in Nicaragua, you have to present to the government what topics you're preaching on. And they edit. They tell you what you can preach on and what you can't.
Wow.
That's one. Another thing that they're doing is also taxing churches. Because that's a way, especially for small churches, they can't stay open. So it's been aggressive behavior towards churches in the last couple of years. And I always find it interesting that when these countries, including Nicaragua, banned a book, it's always a Bible.
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if is it just Bibles and is it just Christian churches? And
yeah, so there's been pushback. It started with Catholic Church.
Okay.
Right. And then it kind of moved up to Protestant churches.
Right.
But it's been, what I see is the truth confronts, right? And that's why I think people push back.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've seen from our government is you push back on the truth, right? You don't like to be confronted. And what they do as a government confronts everything that is in the Bible, right? Where you love people, where you treat people because they're made in the image of God.
Right.
Well, that confronts the way I do government. So we can't have those two conflicting ideas.
Yeah.
So it's been hard. It's been hard on not just Christians. It's been hard on everybody. And there's a lot of help that goes through Christian organizations and nonprofits in Nicaragua, which today that's not happening. So it's not just believers that are suffering the consequences. It's people that need the help, that would normally get help through Christian organizations. They don't have that anymore. You know, so I miss my country. You know, there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about it. But I'm also glad that I'm here and I'm thankful because there's a lot of people that would love to be in my position. We know I wake up every day and I thank God that I'm here. You know, we don't live in a perfect country, but this country has allowed me to live out my faith without living in fear of persecution. Yeah. And so that's something that sometimes we take for granted, you know, these liberties and these freedoms. So it's not perfect. It's man-made. It's never going to be perfect. But you still have those freedoms and that a lot of people in different parts of the world, including Nicaragua, don't have.
Sure. Sure.
You know, so that's always a good reminder to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and all the more reason to be thankful, like you said, for the freedoms that we get to enjoy here, but also a humble reminder to keep praying for our neighbors near and far, for our brothers and sisters in Nicaragua, all over the world, who are experiencing things that, quite frankly, we can't even begin to imagine. So a sobering reminder. Thank you for pointing us to that direction briefly. And I loved one of the, I guess, kind of the visual you used to kind of set the tone for your message. This idea of coming home, like being adopted in. The text spoke about us being made, kind of new and adopted in with Christ. It's in Him and through Him. But you use this picture of like, when you go home, you have keys, you have all access, versus a guest who would need, a visitor pass or something.
Right.
Like
Knock on the door.
Would need escorted around. You have to wait on the
Yeah.
porch.
Yeah.
And so these visuals have been kind of stuck in my head ever since I heard you say that. Of like, man, and we preached about this through the book of Acts too, like people waiting at the gate. you know, and making room. This is why we're planting in Alliance. This is why you're planting in Akron. This is why, like, the gospel compels us to action. But I wonder if you can just zoom in a little bit on the impact for those who are waiting on the porch, looking in, like what should we remember and what should we know about our neighbors? Specifically, we can talk specifically about our Hispanic community, just to kind of enlighten us a little bit, so we know how to pray. And I keep praying for you and for your people and for the church. What would that feel like? What are they experiencing, waiting to get in?
Yeah, that's, you know, there's so many emotions when you leave your country and when you leave abruptly. Like even today, if you decided to move to a different country, there's a lot of emotions involved in that, right? So you can imagine much more emotions if you're forced out. And there's a loss of identity, right? Because everything you did and everything you were in your home country, you come here and you can't be that person. Mm-hmm. So there's a process of trying to find out, okay, what's my next step? Even for me, a believer, I've been in ministry for the last 17 years. And then I come here and I'm like, okay, God, what's my next step? You know, you have to find that purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another level to it when there's cultural differences. Mm-hmm. You know, for a Hispanic population, you try to find people that look like you, that talk like you, that have the same experience, that are able to relate, that could understand the story of you leaving. And I think that's where my heart is. And that's what God has put in my heart because of my prior experiences. You know, not wanting to leave my country, but being forced out, dealing with all the emotions. And it's interesting, the emotional part of it, because you have to go through this period of mourning mm-hmm. because loss of family, loss of friends. But there are certain emotions that hit me, and there's certain emotions that hit my wife, right? Different. For example, one emotion is guilt. Sometimes you feel guilty because you see your kids struggling in certain aspects of their life right now. And so the guilt comes in and says, well, you brought them here. Right? There could be an emotion of fear. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This isn't me. I'm struggling. My main emotion that I had to deal with was I was angry. Angry at my country, my government that didn't want me in my own country, right? They'd rather see me leave. And so you have to deal with all these emotions. So I'm glad, I can say this now, I'm glad that I went through that. Because today I have to sit down with people who've gone through that process, mm-hmm. and I have to be able to understand it. Mm-hmm. I wasn't glad when I was going through it.
Right.
And I didn't even know why I was going through it. But now it makes sense. Yeah. Right? There is no way I could be pastoring a church full of Hispanics if I hadn't gone through my personal immigration story. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that opens the doors for ministry.
Mm. Amen. Mm. Well, and there's a biblical precedent for that too, right? When we consider suffering of any type. Paul talks about it. There's a formula for that, like suffering, endurance, character, and then hope. I've been using that a lot lately, just in counseling with friends, because it's a common denominator. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are suffering, and they want the light at the end of the tunnel. They want the hope of the future, but it's suffering, endurance, character, and then hope. And so that's the beauty of our faith that binds us. And I love that you've been able to see how God has redeemed that in such a short amount of time. Yeah. Because I remember meeting you just shy of maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, a little over 2 years.
And just the reeling from the impact of leaving under duress, essentially, and then coming here. And you said something that also stuck with me. When you first got here, you knew that a church and being around like-minded people, faith-minded people was important. And you Googled Spanish-speaking churches in this area, and you came up with
nothing.
Mission View.
Through God's providence and sovereignty, like a neighbor and who's also a member of Mission View, and there was a great way that story started. Yeah. But again, the impact of there aren't churches for people that look like me, sound like me, or whatever, right? Like so why church plant? Why go through it? Why learn how to suffer well in any capacity? Because there's work to be done. And so I've always admired your faith and dedication, even when we first met. but then now tie that to where God is using that now and what's about to happen in just the next few weeks, right?
Yeah.
So we're coming up on launch dates, and so Zach, any thoughts? Because you're about a year away from planting, but any thoughts on? Well, number one, like, are you suffering well? I guess let's start there.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, my mind's just in a million different areas, just with church planning, and I think that's part of the danger of church planning is you try to eat an elephant, and it's really what can we be doing to impact the community and who's our target group that we're going for. And so for me, it's a little different than you. I don't speak one word of Spanish. So for me, it's more of like alliance in the homeless population and that's there. And then on top of that, Victoria's, getting ready to have a baby. And so
Congrats.
Life doesn't stop. And it's like, Lord is calling you to plant this church. But at the same time, I'm raising 2 kids and we got a third one on the way. And so suffering well, that's a good question to answer because like everything's going so fast now that the process has actually begun.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to accomplish in 1 year. You're on the opposite end of the tunnel. Like, it's becoming fruition for you, and your like launch date is now. We still have some time to look down and see the goals that we want to accomplish. And it's trying not to bite off more than we can chew.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone listening, because not everyone listening is a church planner.
Yeah.
Although if you're thinking about it, come talk to us, because we want to do this time and time again, over and over again, as many times as God will allow over the course of our church's future.
Yeah.
But for everyone listening, we all know, again, it's a common denominator, dealing in a broken world, living with sin, living with broken people, and suffering in a variety of forms, and yet seeing the fruit of being called family. Being co-heirs with Christ, being adopted in. Before we hit record on this episode, we were talking about how God doesn't treat us according to our iniquity. And He remembers our sin no more. And so when we're adopted, like we were like adopted, like new name, new identity. You're talking about where you started, Jorge. So I would encourage everyone listening to really take a moment and just reflect on your current season, and maybe you're not currently suffering. Give praise for that. But I would encourage you to maybe keep your eyes open for someone who is, because I'm willing to bet you don't have to look very far. Right. And if you are going through something, lean into church community. Hopefully you're already in a community group. If you're not, get in one. We'll make room for you. I will personally make room for you, whatever it takes. And so, guys, I admire both of your dedications to kingdom work and to the gospel. And so, Jorge, thank you for sharing your heart with us. And so,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Mission of Yahweh just encourage us to, as we get ready to send, that we would be diligent in doing our part, staying faithful in prayer, and supplication for our neighbors of both English speaking and Spanish speaking too. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited.